Kash Patel's smug grin fades as Jasmine Crockett drops a bombshell in a fiery congressional hearing, exposing lies that unravel his world. Leaked emails and secret texts spark a showdown that grips the nation. The congressional hearing room buzzed with anticipation, the air thick with the weight of scrutiny. Kash Patel, a seasoned political operative with a reputation for unshakable confidence, sat at the witness table, his tailored suit crisp, his posture relaxed. He'd faced hearings before, deflecting questions with practiced ease, his sharp wit a shield against probing lawmakers. Today he expected more of the same, a routine session, a few pointed questions, and a quick exit. The room, packed with reporters, staffers, and cameras, hummed with the usual tension, but Patel seemed unfazed, his eyes scanning the panel with a hint of amusement. Representative Jasmine Crockett, a rising star known for her incisive questioning and unrelenting pursuit of truth, sat across from him. Her presence was commanding, her notes meticulously organized, her expression unreadable. Crockett had built a reputation for dismantling witnesses with precision, her Texas roots grounding her in a no-nonsense approach that resonated with the public. As she adjusted her microphone, the room quieted, sensing the gravity of what was to come. Patel met her gaze, his smirk lingering, as if daring her to challenge him. Crockett began with a calm, deliberate tone, her questions measured, but pointed. She asked about Patel's role in intelligence briefings during his time in government, probing his interactions with key agencies. Patel responded smoothly, his answers polished, sticking to familiar talking points. He leaned back slightly, arms crossed, projecting an air of control. The committee members listened intently, some jotting notes, others exchanging glances. To the casual observer, it was business as usual, but Crockett wasn't here for routine. She paused, her eyes locking onto Patel's, and reached for a stack of documents. "Mr. Patel," she said, her voice cutting through the room, "I'd like to introduce evidence that contradicts your sworn testimony." The room stirred, reporters leaning forward, cameras zooming in. Patel's smirk faltered just for a moment, but he quickly recovered, tilting his head as if intrigued. Crockett held up a series of printed emails, their headers redacted but their content damning. "These emails, obtained anonymously, show you coordinating with aides to withhold details of intelligence briefings from oversight committees. Can you explain this?" Patel's jaw tightened, but he leaned into the microphone, his tone dismissive. "Congresswoman, I'm not aware of any such emails. They could be fabricated, misinterpreted. I've always complied with oversight." His voice was steady, but his fingers tapped the table, a subtle tell. Crockett didn't flinch. She slid the emails across the table, her voice unwavering. "These are verified, Mr. Patel. Your name, your account, your words. You wrote, and I quote, 'Keep this off the record. Use the secure line.' Why would you need a secure line to discuss routine briefings?" The room erupted in murmurs, the weight of her words sinking in. Patel's eyes darted to his legal counsel, then back to Crockett. He opened his mouth to respond, but she wasn't done. She produced a second set of documents, encrypted text messages, time-stamped and linked to Patel's personal number. "These texts," she continued, "show you instructing staff to use burner phones for sensitive communications." "Burner phones, Mr. Patel? Why would a public servant need untraceable devices?" Patel's composure cracked, his face flushing as he gripped the table. "This is a setup," he snapped, his voice rising. "Those texts are out of context. I won't sit here and be ambushed." He pushed his chair back, standing abruptly, his eyes blazing. The room froze, cameras capturing every second. Crockett remained calm, her voice steady. "Mr. Patel, you're under oath. Sit down. We're just getting started." The gavel banged, the chairman urging order, but the tension was electric. Patel hesitated, then stormed toward the exit, his counsel scrambling to follow. The door slammed behind him, leaving the room in stunned silence. Crockett leaned back, her expression resolute. She glanced at her notes, then at the chairman. "I have more evidence," she said, her voice carrying a quiet intensity. "Audio? Recordings? Shall we continue?" The room held its breath, the weight of her words promising a reckoning. Patel's absence only amplified the stakes. What would he face when he returned? The hearing room crackled with tension as Representative Jasmine Crockett's words hung in the air, her promise of audio recordings sending a jolt through the crowd. Reporters scribbled furiously, their pens scratching like a chorus of anticipation, while spectators whispered, their eyes darting toward the door Kash Patel had just stormed through. The chairman, a grizzled veteran of congressional battles, adjusted his glasses, his face a mask of stern neutrality. "Proceed, Congresswoman," he said, his voice low but firm, cutting through the murmurs. Crockett nodded, her gaze steady as she signaled to an aide who placed a small speaker on the table. "Before we play these recordings," Crockett began, her tone deliberate, "let me remind the committee that Mr. Patel swore an oath to tell the truth. These audio files, like the emails and texts, were anonymously leaked but independently verified." She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. The room was a pressure cooker, every breath measured, every glance loaded. Patel's empty chair loomed like a silent accusation, his abrupt exit replayed in the minds of everyone present. Where was he? What was he planning? The uncertainty only fueled the drama. Crockett pressed a button, and the speaker crackled to life. Patel's voice, unmistakable and clipped, filled the room. "If anyone asks about the briefings, you deny everything," he said, his tone urgent. "Use the app I showed you, the encrypted one. No emails, no paper trail." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The recording continued, Patel's voice growing sharper. "They'll never find it. We're covered." The audio cut off, and silence crashed over the room like a wave. Reporters exchanged wide-eyed glances, their phones buzzing with breaking news alerts. The chairman's jaw tightened, his knuckles white around his gavel. Crockett didn't blink. "This recording," she said, "was made during a training session for staff, led by Mr. Patel himself. He wasn't just hiding communications, he was teaching others how to do it." She held up a transcript, its pages marked with timestamps. "This wasn't a one-off. It was systematic." The room buzzed, the implications sinking in. Patel hadn't just bent the rules, he'd built a playbook to evade accountability. Crockett's voice rose slightly, her Texas drawl carrying a razor's edge. "Mr. Patel, if you're listening, I invite you to return and explain this to the American people." As if on cue, the door swung open and Patel strode back in, his face a storm of defiance and barely contained rage. His counsel trailed behind, whispering urgently, but Patel waved him off. He sat heavily, his eyes locked on Crockett, his earlier swagger replaced by a brittle intensity. "Congresswoman," he said, his voice low and taut, "you're twisting everything. That recording is edited, taken out of context. I was protecting national security, not hiding anything." His words were sharp, but they lacked the polish of his earlier responses, his hands clenching the table's edge. Crockett leaned forward, unfazed. "National security?" she said, her voice dripping with skepticism. "Is that why you instructed your team to use burner phones and delete messages? To protect the country?" She produced another document, a memo, its text highlighted in bold. "This memo, signed by you, directs aides to avoid traceable communication and keep oversight in the dark. Your words, Mr. Patel. Care to clarify?" The room erupted in murmurs, the memo's implications explosive. Patel's eyes narrowed, his breath quickening, but he said nothing, his silence louder than any outburst. The chairman banged his gavel, demanding order, but the tension was unrelenting. Crockett pressed on, her voice steady but relentless. "We have more recordings," she said, her eyes boring into Patel's. "One, in particular, references a network, a group inside government operations coordinating these efforts. "Who's in this network, Mr. Patel? What were you hiding?" Patel's face paled, his lips parting as if to speak, but no words came. The room leaned in, every eye on him, waiting for an answer that didn't come. Crockett set her notes down, her expression unyielding. "We'll play that recording next," she said, her voice a quiet promise of truth. "Unless you have something to say now." Patel's hands trembled, his defiance crumbling under the weight of her words. The room held its breath. The stakes, higher than ever. What was this network, and how deep did it go? The hearing room was a crucible, every gaze fixed on Kash Patel, as Representative Jasmine Crockett's challenge echoed. "Unless you have something to say now." Patel's hands, once steady, now shook visibly, his knuckles pale against the dark wood of the witness table. His eyes, wild with a mix of fear and fury, darted from Crockett to the sea of reporters, their cameras capturing his every flinch. The silence stretched, taut as a wire, broken only by the faint hum of the air conditioning and the rustle of papers. Crockett sat motionless, her stare unrelenting, a predator waiting for her prey to break. The chairman cleared his throat, his gavel poised, but he held back, sensing the moment's gravity. The question lingered. What was this network, and who else was entangled in its web? Patel leaned into the microphone, his voice hoarse, strained. "Congresswoman," he said, each word a struggle, "you're blowing this out of proportion. There's no network, just standard protocol to protect sensitive information. You're chasing ghosts." His attempt at composure was feeble, his earlier bravado eroded by the mounting evidence. Reporters scribbled furiously, their headlines already forming. Crockett's lips curled into a faint, steely smile, not of triumph, but of resolve. She reached for the speaker, her movements deliberate. "Let's let the evidence speak then," she said, her voice low, cutting through the room's tension like a blade. The speaker crackled, and Patel's voice filled the room again, this time from a different recording. "The network's tight," he said, his tone conspiratorial, almost proud. "No one talks, no one breaks. If oversight pushes, we pivot to the secondary channel. They'll never trace it." The words landed like a thunderclap, gasps erupting. From the gallery, the recording continued, Patel's voice growing more animated. "We've got people in place, agencies, offices. It's all coordinated. Just keep the apps clean." The audio cut off, leaving a stunned silence. The implications were seismic, a coordinated effort, not just to evade oversight, but to embed secrecy across government operations. Crockett's voice broke the hush, calm but piercing. "Mr. Patel, you just called this standard protocol. Yet here you are, on tape, describing a tight network with people in place. Who are these people? Which agencies?" She held up a new document, its pages dense with redacted names but clear in intent. "This log, also leaked, tracks communications on your secondary channel, a private server, off government systems. Why go to such lengths for standard protocol?" The room buzzed, the weight of her words sinking in. Patel's face was ashen, his breath shallow, his eyes locked on the document as if it were a guillotine. He opened his mouth, then closed it, his counsel whispering urgently in his ear. I need to confer with my team," he stammered, his voice barely audible. Crockett didn't relent. "You're under oath, Mr. Patel. The American people deserve answers now, not after you've rehearsed them." Her words were a whip, each one striking at his crumbling facade. The chairman intervened, his tone sharp. "Answer the question, Mr. Patel, or we'll move to contempt." The threat hung heavy, the room electric with anticipation. Patel's hands clenched, his voice rising in desperation. "This is a witch hunt. You're twisting my words, my actions to fit your narrative." Crockett didn't flinch. She slid another page forward, This one a printed screenshot of a chat log. Your words, Mr. Patel, not mine. This chat, from your encrypted app, mentions a meeting to align the network before an intelligence briefing. You wrote, no leaks, no traces. Who attended that meeting? Patel's eyes widened, his breath catching. He shook his head, muttering, this is entrapment. But the room was unforgiving, the cameras relentless, capturing his unraveling in real time. Crockett leaned back, her voice steady but laced with steel. We have one more piece of evidence, she said, her eyes never leaving Patel's. A whistleblower's testimony, tying this network to a specific operation. Care to guess what it reveals? Patel froze, his defiance shattered. The room poised on the edge of a revelation that could shake the foundations of trust in government. The hearing room was a pressure cooker, every eye locked on Kash Patel as Representative Jasmine Crockett's. Words sliced through the air. A whistleblower's testimony, tying this network to a specific operation. Patel sat rigid, his face a mask of dread, the defiance that once defined him now a distant memory. His hands, trembling, gripped the table's edge, as if anchoring himself against the tidal wave of evidence. Crockett's gaze was unrelenting, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to the storm brewing around her. Reporters held their breath, pens poised, while spectators leaned forward, sensing a reckoning. The chairman's gavel rested idle, his stern expression signaling no reprieve. The question burned. What operation, and how far did this network reach? Crockett's voice cut through the silence, measured but heavy with intent. Mr. Patel, this whistleblower, a staff aide in your office, risked everything to expose your actions. Their testimony details a coordinated effort to manipulate intelligence briefings, not for national security, but to shield political allies. She held up a sworn affidavit, its pages sealed with a notary's stamp. This document names dates, meetings, and a specific operation you oversaw to bury critical reports. Shall I read it? The room erupted in murmurs, the weight of her words seismic. Patel's eyes widened, his breath shallow, as if the affidavit were a noose tightening around him. He leaned forward, his voice a rasp. That's a lie, he said, but the words lacked conviction, his earlier bluster gone. This aide, whoever they are, is fabricating stories for attention. I never manipulated anything. His counsel whispered frantically, but Patel waved him off, his desperation palpable. Crockett didn't blink. Fabricated? She said, her tone sharp. Then explain why this aide provided metadata logs, cross-referenced with your own communications, showing you ordered the deletion of briefing summaries before oversight could review them. She slid a printed log across the table, its rows of timestamps and file names a damning roadmap of deceit. The gallery buzzed, cameras zooming in on Patel's ashen face. He stared at the log, his lips parting, but no words came. Crockett pressed on, her voice rising with controlled fury. This operation, Mr. Patel, involved cherry-picking intelligence to mislead Congress and the public. You didn't just hide communications, you altered the truth. She produced another piece of evidence, a redacted email chain, its subject line chilling. Operation Clean Slate. This email, she said, shows you coordinating with your network to scrub dissenting reports. Why, Mr. Patel? Who were you protecting? Patel's hands shot up, a futile gesture of defense. This is a setup, he shouted, his voice cracking. You're cherry-picking evidence to ruin me. I was following orders, protecting sensitive data. The outburst drew gasps, his admission of following orders, a crack in his armor. The chairman banged his gavel, demanding order, but the room was alive with tension. Crockett leaned forward, her eyes blazing. Orders from whom, Mr. Patel? Name them. If you were just a cog, tell us who ran this machine. Her words were a challenge, daring him to shift the blame or crumble under the weight of his own lies. Patel's mouth opened, then closed, his silence deafening. The room waited, the air thick with anticipation. Crockett didn't relent. The whistleblower's testimony also mentions a meeting you held, off-site, to brief your network on damage control if leaks occurred. We have a recording of that too. She nodded to her aide, who cued the audio. Patel's voice, strained but clear, played, "If anything gets out, we deny, deflect, and disappear. No one talks." The words landed like a grenade, the room reeling from their audacity. Patel slumped in his chair, his eyes hollow, as if seeing his career dissolve in real time. Crockett set the affidavit down, her voice steady but laced with resolve. "This aide, Mr. Patel, uncovered your network because they believed in accountability, not ambition. They're watching now, waiting for you to tell the truth." She paused, her gaze piercing. "One last chance. Who gave the orders, and what was Clean Slate really about?" Patel's hands shook, his silence a confession. The room poised for an answer that could unravel everything. The hearing room was a cauldron of tension, every breath held as Representative Jasmine Crockett's final challenge echoed, "Who gave the orders, and what was Clean Slate really about?" Kash Patel sat frozen, his trembling hands betraying the collapse of his once ironclad facade. His eyes, hollow and haunted, flickered between Crockett's unyielding stare and the sea of reporters, their cameras capturing his unraveling in merciless detail. The silence was suffocating, his refusal to answer a confession in itself. Crockett's affidavit lay on the table, a testament to the whistleblower's courage, its weight anchoring the room in a moment of reckoning. The chairman's stern gaze bore down, his gavel poised as the nation watched, waiting for truth or defiance. Patel's lips parted, his voice a ragged whisper. I acted alone," he stammered, the words barely audible, a desperate bid to shield others. "Clean Slate was my idea, my mistake." The lie hung heavy, unconvincing even to himself. Gasps rippled through the gallery, reporters scribbling furiously as the cameras zoomed in. Crockett's expression didn't waver, her voice cutting through his faltering defense. "Alone?" she said, her tone laced with disbelief. "Your own recordings mention a network, meetings, orders. You expect us to believe you orchestrated this without direction?" She leaned forward, her eyes blazing. "The whistleblower named names, Mr. Patel. Shall we play their testimony?" Patel's face drained of color, his hands clenching into fists. "You've got nothing," he snapped, but his voice cracked, his bravado crumbling. Crockett signaled her aide, who cued a new audio file. A woman's voice, steady but heavy with emotion, filled the room. "I worked for Mr. Patel," she said. "He reported to a small group, senior officials, not elected, who wanted control over intelligence narratives. Clean Slate was their plan to suppress reports that didn't fit their agenda." The room erupted, the revelation a bombshell. The aide's voice continued, naming two officials and detailing their roles, her words a scalpel slicing through years of secrecy. Patel slumped in his chair, his head bowed, as if the weight of the truth had finally broken him. Crockett held up a final document, a leaked memo signed by one of the named officials, corroborating the aide's account. "This memo," she said, "confirms Clean Slate's goal: to manipulate intelligence for political gain. You were their enforcer, Mr. Patel, but you weren't alone." Her voice rose, steady but fierce. "The American people deserve to know who else betrayed their trust. Name them now, or let this evidence speak for you." The chairman banged his gavel, silencing the room's murmurs. "Mr. Patel, answer or face contempt," he said, his tone final. Patel's eyes darted to his counsel, then to the floor, his silence a surrender. Crockett didn't relent. "Your network's unraveling," she said. "The aide's testimony has triggered audits, investigations. The truth is out." She paused, her gaze softening slightly. not with pity but with resolve. You can't hide anymore. Speak, or history will judge you by these tapes. Patel's shoulders sagged, his voice barely a whisper. It's true, he said, the admission a seismic crack. I followed their orders, to protect the system, not the country. The room froze, his confession a thunderclap. Reporters scrambled, phones buzzing with alerts as the nation absorbed the betrayal. Crockett nodded, her expression resolute. Thank you, Mr. Patel, she said, her voice calm but triumphant. The truth matters. The hearing adjourned, but the fallout was immediate. The whistleblower, revealed as a young aide named Sarah Lynn, became a symbol of courage, her quiet diligence sparking a national reckoning. Audits uncovered more of the network's reach, leading to resignations and indictments. Crockett's relentless pursuit earned her bipartisan respect, her name synonymous with accountability. Patel's taped admission replayed across screens, a haunting reminder of trust betrayed. The nation, shaken but galvanized, demanded transparency, their voices rising in unison. In the end, it wasn't spectacle that prevailed, but the persistent, unyielding power of truth, carried by one woman's bravery and another's resolve, forging a legacy that would endure.